Hi, folks. It's me. Just me, Elle. I wanted to talk to you guys a little personally about something that's maybe pretty gross and graphic and pretty disturbing and discouraging. We'll be discussing chronic illness today and body functions. I'll keep it as sterile as possible, but if you're sensitive to this sort of thing, please go watch a different video. Maybe on submarines. I've got a few of those by now. Normally, I have a script to go with these videos, but this one is pretty unusual. Atypical. I have some bullet points to keep my facts straight. The last few years have blurred together, so I need at least my bullet points to keep me on track. You don't want me to start rambling about stuff that isn't relevant. The story is pretty long. Long story short, I have a chronic illness, as the title probably suggests. How I found out was sort of strange. Short story long, I'd been seeing a general surgeon for what I thought was an unrelated issue. I had an abscess, a pretty nasty one, and he treated it by putting in a drain. My job put me on limitations because I couldn't walk very fast or lift anything without aggravating it. I'm so lucky to work in a place that has a limitation system. They didn't just fire me outright. They put me to work on what I could do, which wasn't much, but it kept me employed. I was terrified I'd lose my job, even with the limitations program. But with that drain in my body, I couldn't do anything without being in intense pain. So for an entire Christmas season, basically, I was so stressed, wondering if I'd ever get this drain out. And by the way, if I make any mistakes or have to go back, I'll do a little amount of editing, but most of this is probably just going to be me correcting myself and moving on. As much as I don't want to say I don't want to put a lot of effort into this, but I feel like going over it and rehearsing it makes it sound too much like I'm acting, and this is not acting. This is unfortunately me, and it's who I am. So just bear with me and I'll make it as survivable as possible, okay? Anyway, a few days before Christmas, I got the drain out, and the relief was immediate. Had a good Christmas, until the pain came back. Sometime between Christmas and New Year's, I went back to the ER, and they discovered I had another abscess. And I went through more treatment for that, and this time it was a surgery. And after that, I felt great, no more problems. I had my energy back. I could walk, I could lift, I could do all the normal mechanical things. I thought it was fine. I thought it was all over. For like a year, I was fine, so totally put it out of my mind. And then the discomfort returned. I was super afraid immediately that I had another one, so back to the surgeon. He took me in immediately and just cut me open right there in the office, searching for any signs of abscess, but didn't find any. Big relief. But now I had this mystery pain in my bowels with no reason why. The surgeon suggested a CAT scan, so I went for one, because at that point I'd do just about anything to uncover this mystery before it got worse. I went and had the scan, the pain went away, didn't think too much about it after that. Went back to my job, I played catch up with what I was doing, all the good stuff. And then I got a call from the surgeon. I can picture it pretty clearly even today. I'm in my bedroom, all the blinds are drawn, it's evening, it's getting darker. I'm sitting on the bed listening to this man tell me, Elle, we looked for anything abscesses. We found nothing. And there's significant enough inflammation, though, that we think you may have something called Crohn's disease. I listened to him politely and calmly, as you do with a doctor on the phone. It's all a blur. I don't remember how I got him off the phone, but I did. And after that, I just remember feeling like somebody stabbed me in the chest. And I just started crying, big ugly tears and snot and sobs and just mourning my life. I was certain I'd just lost my future. I didn't know anything about Crohn's, just that it was a bathroom disease, and oh my God, how embarrassing is that? How would I work? Would I be unable to work? Would I have to get an ostomy? Would I be disabled? Was I going to die? I had no idea. I had all these thoughts running through my head. I was terrified, and I just sat there and cried for what felt like forever. I don't remember how I told my parents or my significant other, and I don't remember how I told my friends. I don't remember how much, if anything, except the continuous, really indignant thought of, I feel fine. Why do they think I have a disease? I'm not sick. I'm healthy. The surgeon scheduled me an appointment with a gastroenterologist for something like April. It was a long ways away anyway, which originally I had no problem with. I wasn't sick. I wasn't in pain. I was fine, damn it. I didn't have Crohn's disease. What a stupid idea. And then sometime after this phone call, I started getting a stomach ache. Mild, persistent, nothing too major. Felt uncomfortable, kind of feverish, not very energetic. Thought maybe I had a generic bug. I felt like someone was inside my stomach pushing their way out. I looked bloated. I felt bloated. But I couldn't miss work. I had a training I had to go to, and I couldn't afford to miss it. But one morning I wake up, and it's 4:30 a.m. My alarm's just gone off, and I can't get out of bed. I'm in so much pain, I cannot move. I call my mom. I ask her to take me to the hospital. This poor woman has taken me to the hospital 3 or 4 times now in the last few months, but I'm asking her to do it again. So she calls out of work, and luckily we get up about the same time, and she takes me there. On the ride to the hospital, the pain got worse and worse and worse. I could barely breathe. It felt like knives sticking into me. I had difficulty explaining to the reception what was happening. I couldn't really talk. So they got me into a bed and started working pretty fast. The doctor came in, and I was in tears because there was a needle involved. The nurse was trying to give me my IV fluids and painkillers, and I was crying and freaking out because, y'all, I hate needles so much. I am so phobic of needles. It's not even funny. I don't think phobias are funny. Sorry, that was a poor choice of words. I'm so phobic of needles that it is just ridiculous that I will pass out when I'm getting my blood done. I've passed out when getting my blood done a couple of times now. But this poor nurse is just trying to do her job, and the doctor's coming in, and he's like, "What seems to be the problem today?" And I'm just sobbing, going, "Needles." And my poor mom had to help me answer the question because I'm too busy crying to actually give a decent response, like a person should. Eventually we work our way through all the normal questions, and they take me for a CAT scan, and this doctor also thinks I have Crohn's. So he says he thinks I'm in an active flare. And he asks when my appointment with my gastroenterologist is, and I say April. He says that's unacceptable and got me an appointment for the next week. And that's an incredible doctor, and I will forever be grateful for him. There wasn't much they could do for me besides give me painkillers and send me home. So I went home and rested. The pain didn't go away exactly, but I learned to live with it. It was like a switch had flipped. I went from totally fine, just a little achy, to suddenly unable to get out of bed, unable to eat, weak, exhausted, like overnight. It was the most unexpected thing that had ever happened to me, and with such a speed. I'm not sure if it was a mistake or not, but after this second tentative diagnosis, I started looking up symptoms of Crohn's. It's kind of interesting, I don't have most of them. And here's where it gets grosser again. As some of you will know, there can be a fair amount of blood involved at times, and I didn't have that. But what I did have was constant vomiting. It got so bad I couldn't eat without immediately throwing up. I couldn't keep food down. That's apparently not as common of a symptom, but it is a symptom because I have Crohn's and because I have it. I had also no previous experience with flares or any sign beyond those abscesses in the past 20-some years. No known family history. No environmental exposure. Again, just like a switch from perfectly fine to suddenly having a disease. My gastroenterologist set me up with a whole battery of tests, but thanks to scheduling, it would be some time before I could get them all done, like months. And she couldn't definitively diagnose me until they were all completed, so I would have to wait months for treatment, which is another thing that frustrated the hell out of me because I felt miserable, and the last thing you want to be told when you feel so miserable is, by the way, this is going to take months. You're going to be in agony for months while you wait to be confirmed for something now that 3 doctors are 95% sure you've got. In the meantime, she gave me nausea medication and steroids and told me to take Tylenol for the pain and sent me on my way. I didn't feel like she'd listened to me when I described what was happening. I didn't like her much as a doctor, but she was my only option, so I did everything she said to the letter. Tylenol for pain was a joke, but she didn't want to give me opioids because I could get addicted. Yes, that's a huge concern in our country, but I needed relief. I was in pain. Immense pain all the time, and I felt like she didn't care at all. And I'm sure some of you have dealt with this. The dispassionate doctor who ignores whatever you say anytime you try to advocate for yourself. At first you just think, well, they're the doctor, they know best. But then you realize their advice is detrimental, maybe even harmful, and you try to push back. You just get bowled over and over and over again and again and again. It's such a heartbreaking scenario that plays out all over the place in all avenues of medicine. These are good doctors. Some of them, don't get me wrong, I've had some fabulous ones. This is just my personal experience with one particular doctor. I've had had so many that have been so great, and I have a better gastroenterologist now who's wonderful. I have nothing bad to say about him whatsoever. But this is just my experience with one in particular. I kept going to work. I was put back on full duty. Luckily, we'd hit a bit of a lull, so I wasn't as busy, but I was working long shifts doing nothing, just waiting for certain things to happen so we could get other things done. So my understanding boss, very understanding boss, didn't seem to mind if I wasn't engaged and spent most of the shift just trying to stay awake. I felt, honestly, like a walking corpse. I started losing weight pretty rapidly. I couldn't eat. I couldn't sleep well, but I slept often. My bones hurt. My body felt like I might break if I bent over or moved too fast. The steroids made me irritable. Or maybe it was just the pain and the depression, the helplessness. I don't know. I've been told that steroids don't just make you angry. I disagree. And I'll tell you why. I remember picking a fight with my mom over something really minor and yelling at her, and then crying in the car on my way home and apologizing in a sobbing phone call because I felt so bad knowing the argument had been over nothing. I wouldn't do that normally. That's not a thing I do for fun. I feel like those medications changed who I was. Or maybe not. Maybe I'm just making it all up. I don't know. At the time, I had no energy for friends or hobbies. My romantic life suffered. My chores weren't getting done. I was losing more and more weight, not eating a thing. And I felt so alone. Nobody could understand. There were people who tried. My significant other was such a rock during this time, but even he didn't get the full picture. How could he? Nobody got it. They weren't in my body. He couldn't live in my skin or in my mind. I feel like having a chronic illness of any kind is one of the most isolating things ever. You have a perfectly valid reason for the way things are, and for why things are the way they are. Why the house isn't picked up, why you can't go out as often, why you're canceling plans and missing work. But other people just take that at face value. Like, oh, you have X. What does that mean? Well, it means a lot. There's so much nuance in what it means. We'd be here all day. The long and the short of what it means, though, is that I can't do what I used to do. And if you explain that to people, they'll nod and accept it, and then still wonder why you're using your illness as an excuse. Oh, so you have X, just get over it. And speaking of just get over it, let's talk about the people who, quote, meant well. The people who said, did you try yoga? And if you just relax, you wouldn't be in pain. That one came from my therapist in slightly more complex language. Yes, relaxation and yoga can help, but they aren't going to fix me. I wanted to scream at people when they gave me their advice. Oh, my sister's husband's ex-wife had Crohn's and she cured it with meditation and half a cup of apple cider vinegar every day. Blah, blah, blah. No, she did not. You cannot cure the disease I have. There is no cure. No tea. No apple cider vinegar. No meditation. Just stop. I tried to stay respectful and ignore the fake advice, but it was so hard. I should have won a medal for acting so calm and collected. I also got a few people saying how good I looked having lost the weight. I felt like I was dying, but thanks. I'm glad I fit into a smaller pair of pants and am therefore more attractive to you specifically. Then there were the people who told me, oh, I lost a sister from Crohn's. Tragic for them, uncomfortable for me. How am I supposed to respond? Gee, hope I don't end up like her? Like, what do you say to a grieving person comparing you to their dead sibling? So awkward and so negative. I did not need in those moments to hear people tell me about others who didn't make it. Survival was my bare minimum hope at that point, and hearing about others dying, God, it was so crushing. That sounds selfish, hearing it from my own mouth. But at the time, I guess I was selfish. It was all about me and my needs at the time. I needed to live and not to keep company with the dead. Then there was the judgment. One night I said I needed to go to the hospital. One of my coworkers asked why, and he kept pushing me. So I said, I have Crohn's. I need to go to the doctor. Something doesn't feel right. He immediately got on his phone and started looking up symptoms, saying out loud to the whole break room, do you have diarrhea, nausea? Do you have this symptom and that symptom? I don't think you have Crohn's. I think it's all the sodas you drink. Humiliation doesn't even begin to cover how I felt. Not that it was any of his damn business what my symptoms were. And I didn't need to tell him what my illness was. He was just my journeyman, not my direct supervisor or HR. I told him to shut his mouth, and he got upset with me, of course, but I didn't care. I just left and went to the doctor. I'm sure some of you out there identify with these examples of stories. The yoga person, the just relax advice. Whether it's a physical ailment or a mental one, these two things get touted as cure-alls for everything that ails you. People who mean well but are ultimately so rude with their opinions and their assumptions on your disability, your illness, and your life. My friends, these lives are your own, and nobody, not your doctor, not mom or dad, not neighbor Tim who's really into naturopathic medicine, can live your life or accurately define your experience, your journey into your disease. Remember that. In the midst of my loneliness, I joined a couple groups on social media for people like me. I didn't comment very often, I kept to myself, but it was so incredible to see people talking about Crohn's and colitis like it wasn't something super embarrassing. They made jokes about it, talked openly about colonoscopy prep, talked about their struggles, triumphs, and losses. It was exactly what I needed in a time when I couldn't see a light at the end of the tunnel. Even if I didn't know these people personally, I could see myself in them, and that made me feel more human. I recommend this step for anyone facing their own illness, even if you aren't social or interested in social media. Just seeing other people living their lives and going through the same shit you're going through can be, I guess, uplifting. There's a sense of camaraderie, at least for me. Maybe you won't agree. Maybe you think it's horrible, and that's okay. You don't have to join any group you don't want to. Don't take my advice to heart. I am just a 30-something mechanic, not a therapist at all. I failed out of nursing school. Please don't listen to me. One day, months later, it finally happened. I got treatment, but it took a long time. I had to get medication my insurance would approve of. I spent many hours on the phone with them, begging them to please approve me for something so I could get treated. I couldn't hang on much longer. I wasn't suicidal, but I was definitely having a hard time getting up and continuing to go to work and school. My life was pain, discomfort, missed dates, and my God, did I feel ugly. My face had swollen up thanks to the steroids. It's called moon face. I hated it. My face was huge. My body was slim, and I didn't feel attractive. I was having bathroom issues and throwing up all the time. It It was hard to feel like a confident, normal person when I spent so much time at the toilet. My self-esteem was in the toilet. I think that's another thing that illness steals from you. Maybe not your looks, but your perception of your looks. You feel tired, hollow, worn out, disconnected from your body and physical intimacy. Because it's hard to feel sexy or intimate when you've spent all day in survival mode, or the pain is completely drained you. Hard to want to dress up, put on makeup, do your hair, cologne, all that good stuff. I had to force myself more than once just to look presentable. There were times even a shower was almost an impossible task. I sat on the stall floor a couple of times. But those little tasks, those care tasks, brushing your hair and washing your face, those are the ones that do a world of good. When you can't control how your body feels, doing something small, even just changing your clothes if you have the energy, can help a lot. I know the temptation is always there to let it all go and spiral. But if you can get one or two things done each day, then you're making some progress. Just be sure to balance it with rest. Do a little, rest a little. All within your capabilities. Fast forward to today, I get infusions every 6 weeks. I feel great. I have some energy, not much for a person my age, but some. I gained the weight back. I gained too much back. We're working on that. I take an entire pharmacy of pills for various ailments, because once you have one chronic illness, you're at a risk for more, which is awesome. I'm at higher risk for certain types of cancers, kidney and liver damage. I have a lowered immune system. I'm terrified of getting the sniffles. The pills all have side effects, which are managed by more pills, which means more medications to take. So, hence the pharmacy. I'm alive, though, and I'm still working that same job, and I'm continuing on. As my doctor told me, the road you're on is an uncertain one, but it's well paved. You're not alone here, and neither are you. Don't let yourself think so. Don't give up to the void, my friends. The void calls us all. Do not answer. I think that's about all for now. As always, take care, and thanks for stopping by.